speaking out when others whispered. It was about showing us our world and making us laugh at how ugly it was. So if we finally get GTA 6 and all we see is a market-tested, polished, committee-approved product, then don't be surprised if the myth we loved and held so deeply and so dearly is already gone. But do you know what's even more tragic than that? Remember when we talked about Ortega and how gaming had lost its identity, right? We broke it down through the eyes of the mass man and Ortega's lens. Well, now I want to shift the frame, because now I don't want to ask what has gaming become, but I want to ask what have we become while playing them. I apologize if my voice sounds a bit under the weather. It seems I caught a case of instantaneous flu. I don't know where this thing came from, but I guess we'll just have to make do. Now, gamers today, many of us, I'm starting to say that, including myself, have what we call short attention spans. But maybe you're the rare analyst whose focus remains untouched by the microwave pool of modern media. If you're brave enough to stick with me and hear me out and test your own cognitive stamina, we might find out if you're truly one of the last bastions of long-form attention. You see, the current climate that we're in doesn't just feed us stories, it trains us. We now live in a world that maximizes short dopamine loops. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, even the way games dangle daily Logan rewards. It's all built just to keep you stimulated, not grounded. Hell, I mean, even our conversations have changed nowadays. Where we once exchanged ideas, now we just be trading memes all day. Where we once had connection, now we just have notifications. There's a book. It's called Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman. It's actually the book that we'll be dissecting over the next few weeks. Yes, that also means that our dead Spanish philosopher Ortega's arc is now through, and Postman is who will be guiding us into the next age of enlightenment. Now, Postman said something that is eerie. It's sharp, but quiet, almost as if it's pregnant with a subtle level of profoundness or profundity. I don't know if that's a word or not, but for the benefit of this discussion, it is a word. He said that the medium is the metaphor. Now, what the hell does he mean by that? Well, it's simple but dangerous. What he is basically trying to say is that the way we receive information changes the meaning of that information. The medium through which information is delivered reshapes what we think that thing is. I mean, take for example, back in the 80s, people read newspapers cover to cover. They sought context. They slowed down. The book or article demanded their full attention and their presence. You couldn't just speed read an article or a newspaper back in the day. That medium made you sit down, breathe, and think. But then came television, TikTok, Instagram, a new age, a new medium. One that doesn't encourage much thought, but rather reaction. Now here's the part where we tie it back to us gamers. In a culture where dopamine hits are currency, do you really think that our attention spans were spared? Highly unlikely. The design of the platforms, they basically trained our brains for scrolling, not focus. Do you remember when loading screens were a chance for you to read up and catch up on the lore of the game that you were about to dive into? And now we use that time to check our notifications, to check our messages, check our WhatsApp, Instagram. And what happens when a cutscene runs too long? We skip. Not because it's bad, but simply because our attention spans have been chemically rewired to expect constant stimulation. Like, don't get me wrong, analyst. There are games which have really terrible cutscenes, and you just want to skip past them. And yes, I'm talking about you, God of War Ragnarok. I remember when I was back in, I don't know, maybe 4th or 5th grade, an unspoken rule that we had in my household at the time was you never skip the cutscenes, especially if you're playing a story-driven game, because the cutscenes are what pull you deeper into the story, into the lore, and they help you appreciate the game even more or much better. And I remember a friend of mine, right? I visited this guy, and while he was playing, let's say maybe he's playing San Andreas, right? They would skip the cutscenes, and it would irk me to no end. Because in my head, I couldn't imagine, why in the world would you skip the cutscenes? How are you supposed to understand what's happening? Why? Like, it didn't make sense to me at the time. Like, why the hell are you skipping the cutscenes? But today, that behavior is basically the norm. People skip cutscenes now. They don't care what the story is about. They just want to get to the next dopamine spike. And now the metaphor for a modern gamer is a twitching finger on the skip button. You see, when it comes to the attention deficit gamer, it isn't just burnout. It's not just bad pacing or too many fetch quests. Yes, I'm looking at you, Ubisoft. It runs deeper than that. The way we play games has changed. Not because of the games themselves, mind you, but because of how we've actually been trained to receive or to play them, to consume them. I mean, do you remember when you would spend an entire weekend on one boss fight? when you read the item descriptions just to piece together the lore of this game that I'm playing, when sitting in silence on a loading screen didn't feel unbearable. But today, you skip the cutscenes and there are almost no loading screens anymore. All of it designed to keep you stimulated, to keep us stimulated. And of course, if the game doesn't stimulate you, then just refund it or buy another one. You see, this isn't an accident. It's the medium doing what it's supposed to do. The medium is the metaphor. TV changed the way we perceive truth. It had to be flashy, it had to be dramatic, it had to be entertaining. And now with gaming, especially in its live service, streamer-ready, TikTok-friendlier form, it's doing the exact same thing. We're no longer players, we are viewers. We're not just engaging anymore, we're basically grazing. The game is no longer what you'd consider a meal, it's a snack. Quests that complete in minutes, rewards for logging in, dialogue that skips to highlights. These are all the ways we were trained on short attention dopamine loops. I mean, even good games are being forced to adapt to the player's shortened tolerance for quiet, reflection, or even challenge. And I want you to think about that. Postman said we would stop reading books not because they were banned, but simply because we no longer had the attention span to care. And now, here we are. We want good story, but we skip the cutscenes. We want challenge, but we demand accessibility. Elden Ring needs an easy mode. We want immersion, but we tab out during the loading screen. And then we wonder, why doesn't anything stick? Why do games feel hollow when they're actually fun? It's because the way we engage has been reduced to button prompts and highlight reels. In other words, we didn't change the game changed us. So the big question is, can we come back from this? Can we still slow down? Can we reflect, engage, savor? Can games be more than just content again? You see, Postman's warning wasn't just about television. It was about what happens to a culture when every medium becomes entertainment first and everything else second. And now that gaming has become the dominant medium, the real question is, are we doomed to short attention spans? My answer is not necessarily. We may be compromised, but we are not conquered. Here's what you can do, analyst. Start with awareness. Recognize when you're craving quick hits instead of deep engagement. Awareness is always the first weapon. Retrain your mind. Choose games and media that stretch your focus. Watch something long form. Read again. Let silence make you smarter. You know, just one day a week, just unplug. No TikTok, no Instagram, no shorts, no scroll. Let boredom in. Because that's where reflection begins. Be the glitch in the matrix. While the world scrolls on TikTok and Instagram, you remain still. Because in a world that is full of noise, being able to be still is an act of rebellion. That's resistance. And as for me, I'll keep making these videos to slow the scroll, to spark reflection, to call the analyst in you forward. Because maybe we can't outdo the damage overnight, but we can always